How to see stars, Cetus the Whale or the Sea Monster. Welcome back, everyone. This is Lesson 2 in our free video course on Alternative Astronomy, where we're learning to identify the star constellations of the fall sky in the Northern Hemisphere. In this lesson, we're going to put our focus on Cetus the Whale or the Sea Monster and get to know this constellation that has a big starring role in many more myths and stories than most people have any idea about. This makes this constellation that you've likely not even heard of before even more mysterious. So let's dive back into the depths of the celestial sea and meet Cetus. Now, if you've been along with us in this journey of becoming star-sighted over the summer, you'll remember that we've looked at Cetus before, showing up playing a starring role, for example, in the 4th of July story. This is just one of our videos that goes a bit beyond the beginner information that we're presenting here. But for the first time in this context, this beginner information here, we're going to really look at Cetus in more depth for the first time. So we're going to orient ourselves to face south and look up, starting during the month of October, the first 2 hours after the sun sets. Now remember, you know you're facing south when your left side is nearest where the sun rises in your location, and on your right side is where the sun sets. This special area of the sky where you're facing south and looking up in the sky above the horizon of the Earth is a very special area we've nicknamed the real oracle or the real all-seeing eye. And beginning in the month of October, you will find Cetus the Whale, or the Sea Monster as it's known today, will be just starting to rise over the eastern horizon of the Earth during the first 2 hours after the sun is set. But there's something very interesting to take note of about Cetus during this time of the year, something that we're going to see show up over and over again as we get deeper into these sky stories. One of the reasons that Cetus is so special is because he has a very important role in keeping time, or in other words, he helps us set the calendar here on Earth. And in this piece, this is going to show us in just one way that is. So we're looking up in the month of October. Remember, we're looking the first 2 hours after the sun sets at the real oracle in the sky, and we see Cetus rising over the eastern horizon. Now, during the last hour of night, or the last hour before the sun rises, that's where we find Cetus has traveled coast to coast, so to speak, and ends up just above the western horizon to set. This is just one reason Cetus has such a large starring role in being a timekeeper, because as you can see during October in the Northern Hemisphere, in the night sky, you can set your clock by Cetus, so to speak. If you know, that is, Cetus's night owl schedule that he keeps during this time of the year, where he's up and traveling along the arc of the ecliptic all night long, from sunset to sunrise. You can imagine that in a time before clocks and watches and before modern technology to aid in our navigation from one place to another, over land or by sea, how important it would be to have this higher knowledge, or to be able to read this star map in the sky, right? To help you get around. Now, something else important to notice here is the way that Cetus is shaped. Overall, it's a bit more of a difficult constellation for beginners to find because most of the stars that make up Cetus are on the dimmer side. But it's the shape that it takes overall in the sky. It's this aspect that does make it a little easier to identify when you connect the dots. Meaning when we look up at this constellation, it's easy to see how our ancient ancestors saw a whale there, right? Still others looked up and saw a sea monster. And these are things that you can find talked about plenty by plenty of mainstream sources. And you can find Cetus portrayed in many older celestial atlas drawings in this same way, as a sea monster swimming in the celestial sea, and sometimes causing big problems, like in the ancient Greek myths, where the beautiful Princess Andromeda has to be saved from Cetus. But what you're never told is that many other ancient ancestors of ours looked up at this same constellation and saw other things in Cetus, like, for instance, a giant bird especially when combining it with Pisces, always over Cetus's head there. Looking at Pisces being the wings spread out in flight, and connecting that to the constellation of Cetus, you can see the bird, right? But very often, our ancient ancestors looked up and saw a baby or a child in Cetus instead. Can you see how Cetus would be interpreted as a baby or a child? But still others looked up and saw a dragon. And again, you have to combine Cetus with Pisces, always right above it. And you can see there why dragons are famous for both being able to fly and for breathing fire. In this case, this artist saw a dragon in Cetus reading the open book of Pisces in front of him, hinting to us about the importance of gaining this higher knowledge for ourselves. Speaking of books, some of the information from this piece comes from our book series Constellations by Campfire, the easy and naked eye way for the fall season. And you can get yours and the Cetus design featured in this video and many more by following the links in the description or by visiting our website, starsnearme.com. For tonight, get out there under the October sky and find Cetus the Whale or the sea monster or the baby or the dragon, swimming in the celestial sea from east to west, from sunset to sunrise. Cetus is a night owl during this time of the year. He's up all night, playing a big role in keeping the time. Until next time, stay lit and be well.